Hey everybody, what's up? Stingray here again, and in this video I'm going to talk about this compact hopper t-flipflop. I've used this design quite a few times in my other redstone contraptions, but I want to give it its own video to talk about it in detail. If you don't know what a t-flipflop is, it's basically a lever that can be toggled with a redstone signal, right? So we have a lamp over there, and if we press this button, you can see that the lamp is on, and it now stays on until I hit this button again. Right, so it takes a pulsed signal like from a button and turns it into a permanent signal like from a lever. This is really useful, especially for things like doors and whatnot, right? It's really a generally useful piece of redstone. So let's get to building this thing, right? I'm going to split this video into two parts. In the first part, I'm going to talk about how to build it and how to get your inputs and outputs from this thing, which is the important part if you just want to use it, right? And in the second part, I'm going to talk in depth about how and why this thing works. Building this t-flip-flop is really quite simple. We're going to start out with two hoppers that are facing each other, right? So if we were to put an item in here now, it would just pass back and forth between these two hoppers. Now to prevent that, we're going to add some redstone. So we're going to add a block to the side of the of one of the hoppers, right? We obviously have four options here. And then we're going to add another block diagonally down next to the other hopper. Then, on top of the upper block here, we're going to add a redstone torch. And on top of the three remaining blocks, we're going to add some redstone like that. And that's it, right? Just add an item in here somewhere, and that is the whole t-flip-flop, right? All that I have to do now is getting some inputs and outputs, right? So, starting with the outputs, the state of the t-flip-flop is obviously defined by which hopper the item is in. And we're simply going to detect that by the use of comparators. So we can have these four blocks to put comparators on, and you can see these two are on and these two are off, because this is where the item is in at the moment. So obviously these two and these two are identical, right? So these two detect one state, these two detect the other state. And you basically have two options for each state to detect it. Now, for demonstration purposes, let me add some lights here, right, so we can actually see the output. We can get rid of this. And now for the input is really, really flexible. So, the first option we have is going in from the side like this, right, into this block. In this case, you need to use repeaters, because we need this block and this block powered, right? That's important. For the inputs, both this block and the redstone piece here need to be powered. So if I now send a signal through here, you can see the torch turns off, but this redstone turns on because the signal is passed through. If I now turn it off, you can see the whole thing flips. Obviously this one works again in exactly the same way, right? The next option we have is going into this block here directly. However, in this case, we can only go in from the side like this, right? So you can see this works. However, we cannot go in from the side, from front, right? So if we were to do this, you can see this doesn't do anything. So this doesn't work. Connecting a redstone like this breaks it, right? But putting it like this doesn't. I'll explain why exactly in the next part, where I'm gonna go into details, but for now, just accept that if you're going directly into the redstone piece, you can only go in from the side. The next option is, of course, to go into this block. In this case, you've got four options, right? You can go in from all four sides with repeaters. Whoops. With repeaters like this, right? So the repeater will power the block and transfer it over to this redstone, so this obviously works as well. And you can go in from all four sides. The final option is to actually go in from below with redstone torches, but of course keep in mind that you have to invert these once more, so the inputs are by default off. Okay, so let's now talk about how this thing works in detail, because it's not as straightforward as it might seem. The first problem, of course, is that the state of the t-flip-flop is obviously defined by which hopper the item is in. And we prevent the item from flowing back and forth all the time by having this redstone signal up here. The problem is, we can't just take any old input, invert it, and then put that in here. right? Because that would mean that if we had a button, for example, that would turn this off for a second, and that would be way too long, because this would allow the item to flow back and forth multiple times, which we don't want. So we want this redstone line to be off for just a single tick, and this means that we need a signal limiter. The neat thing about this design is that it basically incorporates the signal limiter in the whole thing itself, right? So this line is not just the output of the signal limiter, but like part of it. So if we take an input from here, right? So an input from that goes into this block with a repeater, then what happens is that the redstone signal comes in, that turns on this line, and here we actually have, this is more or less of a bug, right? You know when you have some slabs like this and redstone, and like this, you can have the signal can travel up like this, but it cannot travel down, right? You can see it doesn't travel down. And the hopper works in the same way, right? The signal can't travel down, which is why this is off, but when the signal comes in from here, it will be, this repeater will power this block, and the signal will be able to travel up. Right, so what happens is that the signal from here will turn this on, that will turn this on, and then a tick later the torch will turn off, but the signal is still on, so the hoppers are still disabled, right, like this. And now when we turn this off now, this will turn off immediately, but the torch will only turn on in the next tick, which means that this line is then actually off for a single tick. And as you can see, that allows the whole thing to flip. So this is what makes the whole thing so compact, is that it incorporates the signal limiter in the whole t-flip-flop itself. But what's really weird about this is that, like, this is straightforward, right? I mean, the signal goes from here, gets transferred through the block into here, and stuff happens. But the weird thing is, if we now go in from the side here, you can see this still works, right? So we have the signal going in from here, and this torch turns off. But if you look at this, this doesn't look right? It doesn't look connected to this block. But that's exactly the point. It doesn't look connected to the block, but it actually is connected to the block. And this has to do with this bug, with this connection bug here, because what actually happens is that you can see this looks like a straight line now, right? This isn't connected. So this looks like a straight line because it's kind of connected more or less to this one. But what technically happens is that this is actually not a straight line redstone, but a dot, which you might know is actually a cross. So this thing now connects to all four sides, specifically this block. So if we now have an input into this block, we just take a repeater like this, so we don't have any connection, actual redstone connection here. Right? This looks like a straight line, but it's still a cross. So if we put a signal in here with this comparator, for example, with this repeater, then this turns on, and because it's technically a cross, it will still connect to this one. This, I mean, yeah, I guess you can count it as one bug, because it's a result of this semi-connection here. Right? And this is also the reason why when you're going into this block directly, into this redstone block, you cannot go in from the side here, because if I do this, if I connect this like here, then this turns into an actual straight line as it looks, right? Now, this isn't connected to the redstone torch anymore, so it doesn't turn off, and, well, nothing happens, because this constantly is on, and then obviously, this will never turn off. So, yeah, incorporating the signal limiter into the t-flip-flop itself, and quite a bit of cheeky bug using, is what makes this thing as compact as it is. And with that, I guess we'll call it a video. So thanks for watching, I hope you liked the video. If you did, a thumbs up would be very much appreciated. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below. I'll also link my Twitter in the description, so feel free to follow me if you want to. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos. So, see you next time. Goodbye.